Welcome to the first session on theory of computation. In this session, let's try to explore the necessity of having this as a subject in most of our university curriculum. Just have a look at the diagram here. I at least perceive this in two different directions. The first one being the entire world is now operating on zeros and ones, which is the basis for all the computer devices or the smart devices that we have now. And this entire world is available to every individual through this computer. As a computer science engineer, it's not only good to use these smart devices like others do, rather, it's a mandatory requirement for a computer science student to understand clearly on how these computer machines work. That's why we have this as a theory of computation. For example, you assume a mechanical engineer. He can't even touch the machine to repair it for a reason without understanding the basics behind the working of a machine. But the fact that we don't need to understand anything about the basics of how a computer works or keep us in a comfortable position that we don't need to really bother about it, that has to be removed from our mind. So, being a computer science student or a computer science engineer, we must clearly have an understanding on how the machines work, right? And hence is the theory of computation. Now, let's start exploring this with a practical example. In this pandemic, we may not be going to school, but assume the fact that the kids want to go to school from their home using a bus service to the destination. Assume it may be you, me, or somebody else. Now, initially, what is your state? You will be at home, right? So, the person or the kids will be at home and they have to walk for at least 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on the distance. And once they reach the bus stop, they'll be waiting for the bus, right? So, when the bus arrives, they'll be traveling in the bus, and after a certain period of time they'll be reaching the destination. At every point of time you can note down the state of a particular person. So initially by 8 o'clock in the morning they'll be at home and they'll be walking to reach. So what is the input here? It is your walking. So you apply your input walking and you'll be reaching the bus stop. When you are standing at the bus stop waiting for a bus, you are in a particular waiting state. Then what you do? When the bus arrives, you are getting into that. And what is your input now? You will be traveling in the bus. Finally, what happens? You are getting down at the bus stop where you need to do like so, right? So, anything, whatever you do in your real life, if you think of. So, the entire world is operating on states and transitions. Now, this is a state, right? So, state represents the characteristic of something. Assume that something to be the student. The state represents the place where they are currently. Now you are applying an input called walking, okay, which makes you to move from one state to the next state. What is it state? It is the place, bus stop. You are in the bus stop. Then you are applying another input called traveling in bus, right? Then you can reach the next state, which is called as the destination. Hope you can understand this logic. Anything that you speak in your real world, you think in your real world, can be converted into a diagram of this kind. How we switch on the system. Assume that your laptop is in switch off mode now, right? How do you make it work, or how do you bring it to a workable state? Now, I'm giving you a action, or I'm giving you a work that you need to type something on your Microsoft Word. How will you do, right? First, I need to bring my laptop to an on state. How do we do? We'll be applying an input called pressing this power button. This is the input. When you do apply some input, you are making a transition from one state to another state. All the background operations will go, okay, which we don't need to bother about. Finally, you will be provided an environment which will have the list of applications that you can use. That's what we mean by desktop. Once this desktop is given, what is my intention? To open Microsoft Word, right? How do we do? You can double click on the Microsoft Word document shortcut that is available on your desktop. This is not only the way, right? You can have multiple ways. The other way being, you can click on your start button and then it will pop out all the applications that you have on your system. Search for Microsoft Word, then you click on there. So in which case you will have multiple state transitions. That's all. The application opens up for you. Now what are the states? System shutdown is one state, desktop is the second state, and Word is the third state. So this is the transition and these are the inputs. So inputs are mandatory for making a transition from one state to another state, right? Is it clear? Yeah. Now, having understood a general example and an example with our systems, now what do we understood? Anything and everything in this world can be represented using a state transition diagram. What is a state transition diagram? You will have different states which represent characteristic of domain at that particular point of time. And how to move from one state to another state? It is by application of some input symbol. Right? So, how do the machines work? For what and all are the problems for which we need to draw this transition diagram? For what? It should be for all the softwares. Every software has to be instructed on how it should work. Otherwise, everything will become a collapse. Okay. When I switch on my power button, the booting process has to go on, right? So the BIOS ROM has to have all the instructions stating that it has to do this. Okay, all the that is device checking has to be done, followed by the loading of operating system from hard disk to your RAM memory. Everything has to be instructed step by step, which is nothing but the state transition diagram. And it is not at all enough to give an overall view of your system. Instead, each and every instruction that is there in every software has to be noted down, right? So the state transition diagram for every software and for every instruction on your software has to be clearly given, so that there will not be any flaw in the working of the system. Otherwise, if you click on Word, it will open PowerPoint. If you click on PowerPoint, it will open a Jupyter Notebook. The programming languages are evolving, then the instruction sets are evolving, and hence we have different automata models. The programming language, let's say you have basic programming language 1, assume that it is basic. It has only sequential statements earlier, right? Then the functional programming came for, let us the structured programming came in, wherein the sequence statement are attached with all your the iteration and your branching statements. Then it's not at all enough for us. Then the programming language 3 got evolved with object oriented programming, or the modular programming comes into practice, right? And hence the programming languages are getting evolved. Similarly, in order to accommodate all these changes, we have instruction sets also. So instruction set 1, 2, depending on the processor evolving. In order to accommodate the evolution of programming languages with the evolution of instruction set, the fine automation of models are getting evolved. Okay, and hence the modeling needs to accommodate with these changes. What is this? Yeah, it's a sandwich maker, right? So you are inserting a bread. After the minutes that you set, automatically it pops out the toasted bread for you. Do we ever think of how it operates? We don't need to bother about how it operates its internal. The fact that it's very smart in the fact that after that particular minute of time, this roasted breads will be popping out. Okay, so indicating that it's ready for you to eat. So people are talking about smart home, smart home, smart home. Everything needs to be very smart rather than working hard, right? How do this smart home comes in? Okay, it's all through automation. So when you talk about automation, a modeling diagram is mandatory. That modeling diagram is what is the basis for automata theory. Okay, these are some of the applications, and if you look at the application that is inside our system, which is running actually, we have a translator, which you might be thinking of. What is a translator? When there is a requirement for translating one language to another language, when two persons doesn't able to understand the language of other, we are in need of a translator. We can talk in one language, machines can understand only zeros and ones, and hence we have compiler, interpreter, macro processor. How do these work? It's all based on the automata theory. Let's formally define what is automata. So now it is the study of abstract computing machines. Okay, why is it called abstract? Now you look at the sandwich maker, we never bother about how it works. We are inserting the bread, we want that to pop out. So it is very abstract. You are giving an input, you are taking the output. Okay. You switch on the washing machine. After this point of time, it is closing and giving you. We don't bother about what is the kind of operation that is happening inside. And hence we call the computing machines to be very abstract. But as a computer engineer, we need to understand how this abstraction is being enlightened at the back. Also, apart from just understanding the abstraction, it is including the study of problem that could be solved by these machines, right? For example, you understand or you take the same computer that is available both at your home as well as in a power plant. Use your computer there and they cannot use your computer, right? But the components and the type of operation that you have on the system remains the same. So how do we do? Okay, how do we decide that which of the operations can be done by the machine at your home power plant? So that's also included as part of your automata theory. Now, what are the basic automata models that we do have now? The entire world is being converted into a that is state diagram, which we call it as finite automata. Okay, you can just map it with your sequence statement, iteration statement, and a looping statement. So initially in all the programming languages, we do have only sequential statement, and the corresponding automata structure, we say it is finite automata. Then when you come to include branching and conditional statement, what happens is you want to branch in from one position to another position. Okay. For example, in modular programming languages, after having branched to a particular part, calling a function, while returning back, we should have a recorded history of where the control needs to be given back. Only finite automata is not at all useful in such cases, and hence we move on for push-down automata. You can see the fact that push-down automata is inside finite automata. So meaning that the finite automata concept is already brought in push-down automata along with one more concept to memorize the states. So push-down automata permits only one unidirectional concept, wherein if you are in need to have bidirectional movement, we go for the next level of computing machine, what is called as your Turing machine, which is the basis for all the computing machines that are available. Turing machine includes the concepts of both finite automata and push-down automata, along with one more advantage of bidirectional movement. These are the basic automation models that we do have in practice. And with this, we'll stop this session. We'll continue starting to learn the basics of automata theory in the next session. Thank you.